team building skills, perfect for corporate retreats. Visit willowequine.com as you gallop to greatness.
The following is a paid program and does not necessarily reflect the views of WSIC.
Welcome to Dollars and Cents, presented by North Main Financial. I'm your host, Joshua Dobi. Thank you so much for hanging with us here, 4 o'clock hour here on WSIC. If you're a 9 to 5er, you got 53 minutes, 25 seconds until you get to that 5 o'clock bell, and I appreciate you spending that time with us here on Dollars and Cents as we're giving attention to, and perhaps we're even sparking some conversation regarding items of financial and economic importance. Now, you know, as a previous listener to this show, we're talking on any number of things. We're going to be doing it again here today. Some things positive, some things maybe not so positive. You know, that's part of how the market works. But in doing so, you remember as a previous listener that nothing that we're talking about here is intended as a specific recommendation for you. Meaning that even though we're going to be talking about specific companies and investments, investment styles, commodities, we're going to be touching on commodities here a little bit today in today's show, that again, in doing so, nothing intended as a specific recommendation for your space. We strongly, strongly recommend you reach out to your tax advisor, to your financial advisor, or if you'd like to reach out to us, North Main Financial Group, love to hear from you. Love to chat about your particular financial situation, see if there are ways in which we might be able to be helpful to you. Online, you can find us at northmainfinancial.com. That's north like the direction, Main like the street, financial.com. We got a contact page on there. Leave us an email address or a phone number. We'll be sure to reach out to you again at northmainfinancial.com. You're also welcome to call us here in the studio. I'd love to hear about what's on your mind, or if there are specific things that you'd like for us to discuss here on Dollars and Cents. Can't promise that I'm going to get to it necessarily in today's show, but please leave us the subject matter, your question. I'll be sure to get to it. I promise you. 844-STUDIO-4. That's 844-788-3464. 844-788-3464 here in the studio. Like I said, if I can't get to it, leave the question, leave the thought, maybe something coming across your headline screen. You know, I mean, we live on the news, on our screens. You know, it's iPads, it's phones, it's all kinds of stuff that is bringing us our news. I still like newspaper. If you're watching me on the socials here right now, or if you're on the WSIC app, and if you're not on the WSIC app, make sure you get over to the Google Store, Apple Store. Go ahead and download that WSIC app. You never have to worry about whether you're within signal range on your stereo. Just bring up the app and you can always listen to us and also see us live. That's why I was saying here, if you're watching us on the socials or on the app, you see I always have the paper in front of me here. I still like to get the newsprint on my fingers. I know that gives some indication about my age, and, well, that's okay. I'm still going to do it. But I appreciate your time here this afternoon on Dollars and Cents. Let's go ahead and dive right into it. What's hot? There's a lot going on. And I guess there always is, right? I mean, I used to feel like there used to be, in the economic and market universe, there used to be a little bit more ebb and flow in earlier parts of my career, where there were just more intense times from a news and trading and market standpoint, and less intense times. I don't think that's the case anymore. It's pretty much 24/7, 365 as far as interesting points, but also important points that are out there. So it's not just filling the airwaves, but literally with things that impact us day to day, week to week, month to month, when it comes to your portfolio, to your financial plan. So we're going to go ahead and get right into it here. First one on deck. This is one that's going to be very familiar to you, I know. Very well-known company. They're ubiquitous. I really have to say it that way in terms of brand proliferation. Tough to argue that they're outside of the top 10. I got to put them in the top 10, at least in this country. That's Disney. Ticker symbol David, Indigo, Sam, DIS. Not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold Disney. Came out with earnings, and I'm going to raise my hand quickly. I was surprised. I was surprised because Disney is one of those mile markers in my end of the world that really is an indication about how the consumer spends. Because if you think about it, purely discretionary. It literally is. So Disney, going to a Disney theme park, going on a Disney cruise, going or buying one of their services, streaming services, getting one of the movies that you're paying for, all discretionary spends. So we're talking about the kinds of dollars on a budgetary basis that folks choose to spend, generally speaking, don't have to spend, like rent, like mortgages, like car loans, etc., that and electric bills, etc. So definitely a very good indication on the consumer, not the only one. Never want to be too binary with that, where we look at just one variable and then want to make a more broad-based declaration. That gets dangerous and allows for the possibility of missing some important data inputs. But very important when it comes to Disney. And again, I'm raising my hand because I was surprised. I was surprised at how positive not only was their quarterly earnings report, because we had seen some things that, we were seeing some scale back in traffic at some of their theme parks, or having trouble with their streaming services, still are. They're getting that resolved, but having some trouble with their subscriber base on their streaming networks. I was expecting a pretty negative, actually, kind of quarterly report, and perhaps more importantly, more of a negative outlook going forward. Exactly the opposite. Very interesting. So they've shapeshift some things. They have moved internally to be able to fix some of the problems from a financial standpoint. Came through with really glowing quarterly earnings here, and then again, probably most importantly, in the go forward look in terms of what they expect in their theme parks and on their cruise lines, very positive. And again, that was very interesting to me, because when I look at that, I look at theme parks and I look at the cruise lines. Those are big spends. You heard me say probably a month or two ago, we were talking about the average amount of debt that a family of four, average family of four, goes into to go to a Disney theme park. It's upwards of $2,000. $2,000 in debt, meaning on a credit card that doesn't get paid off, to go to one of the theme parks. I mean, these are very, very expensive kinds of excursions, and they are very, I would say, optimistic. Now, when Disney was being optimistic, they also have a new park coming online in May of next year. That definitely is playing into that. That is it's part or connected to the Universal Studios end of things, and so their new hotels are going to be new attractions, all of those kinds. That's definitely going to drive a spike in traffic, and that was absolutely part of their optimism about what they saw for theme parks here in the coming year. But I thought it was interesting that extended also to the cruise lines. Very optimistic about not only current passenger load on cruise lines, but also in a go forward kind of way for the next year. So it was very interesting to hear that. I wasn't expecting it. Like I said, I expected something that was going to be more modest, or it was going to be perhaps even negative, and that their forecast going forward was going to be something that was not as appealing. And so it was very interesting to hear that. So all right, so we've got Disney that's out there. Let's switch a little bit. Let's go to commodities real quick. Amazing story come out of Colombia, meaning the country of Colombia. And the commodity that we're talking about is gold. And specifically, there have been two large mines in Colombia, which, by the way, very rich in gold mining. And so we're talking about gold, the commodity, about $2,500 troy ounce right now is the spot price there in London on the exchange. So we're talking about obviously a very, very valuable asset. And there are gangs, there are raiders that have taken over a couple of large mines in the country of Colombia, have stolen about 3.2 million tons. 3.2 million tons in the course of the last year. I don't know. How do you get it out of there? I mean, gold's not the easiest thing to manage, I mean, it's coins in the pocket kind of thing, but these are big ones. So kind of interesting. Going to be watching the gold spot price for sure. But while we're doing that, or before we're doing that, rather, we're going to hear from our sponsors. Appreciate you hanging with us here on Dollars and Cents. Hang with us for the second quarter. Coming back in a minute on WSIC.
More of Dollars and Cents with certified financial planner Joshua Dobi is coming up on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Well, grab the rain gear and don't forget to dress warm as you step outside, really at any point today. On and off rain, some of it can be heavy. Temperatures will stay locked in those cold upper 40s around like normal today. Rain will start to come to an end this evening. We start clearing it out as we go into the overnight hours. Temperatures fall back into the low 40s. For our Friday, it's a cool day of weather, low 60s. Some sunshine comes back, but it's breezy. Our weather returns to good shape over the weekend. That's your forecast for the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
The WSIC app is available now wherever you get your apps, featuring local deals from great local businesses. like Top Notch Gutters of Statesville.
Cakes and cookies, toys and gifts.
The Southern Christmas Show, November 14th through 24th at the Park Expo and Conference Center. Save on tickets at southernChristmasShow.com, courtesy of Kraft Body Scan.
The Southern Christmas Show.
Here's your WSIC community calendar. Hot Rods and Hops is back on Friday night at Rev Fast in Mooresville. The cruise-in featuring souped-up cars, trucks, and motorcycles kicks off at 6 p.m. Your weekend begins at Apex Storage Condos in Mooresville Friday night with Hot Rods and Hops. Langtree Lake Norman lights their Christmas tree on Saturday. The annual event begins at 5 p.m. Festivities include visits with Santa, bounce houses, vendors, the Langtree Charter Academy Band, and more. Come out Saturday to Langtree Lake Norman off exit 31 from I-77 for their annual tree lighting. The WSIC squad is back for trivia at Micaiah's. Come join us on Tuesday, November 19th at Micaiah's in Mooresville for Big Bang Theory trivia. Meet WSIC show hosts, play trivia based on the popular long-running sitcom, and win some prizes. Knock, knock, knock. Penny? We'll see you at Micaiah's in Mooresville on Tuesday, November 19th. Speedway Christmas at Charlotte Motor Speedway begins Friday, November 22nd. The Holiday Light Show features more than 5 million lights on a 4-mile course through the oval, pit road, and infield. The show also has drive-in movies on the gigantic Speedway TV. Speedway Christmas tickets and information are available at charlottemotorspeedway.com. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
The Renaissance Festival is back, Saturdays and Sundays, now through November 24th. Tickets available online only at renfestinfo.com. While supplies last, don't miss the Renaissance Festival. Huzzah!
It's Dollars and Cents with certified financial planner Joshua Dobi on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Hello and welcome back to Dollars and Cents presented by North Main Financial. I'm your host, Joshua Dobi. Thank you so much for hanging with us here. Second quarter of today's show, Football Reference. Got to talk about our Panthers. Got to do it. Producer Reese and I were just talking during the break there about our Panthers. We're on a winning streak. Any way you want it, we are on a winning streak. I'm not going to tell you how many games the winning streak is. You're going to have to check that out for yourself. But we are absolutely on a winning streak, and I believe if I checked my my schedule correctly for the Panthers, that winning streak is guaranteed to continue for the next week. And I can say that with absolute certainty, that winning streak is guaranteed to continue for the next week. Now, there are probably some of you who are scratching your heads, thinking if I have some kind of insider knowledge. I do not. The Panthers have a bye on this week. So we are absolutely going to continue the winning streak for another week, and we hope it's going to be for another week after that. We're turning this season around. You got to stay on the got to stay on the bus. We're not going anywhere. We're coming back here. All right, so it's good to see our Panthers picking it up a little bit and getting back on the straight and narrow, and we do hope that continues. Man, they went overseas. They went to Germany to play football. Pretty amazing stuff that you see the NFL doing. It used to be they had 1 or maybe 2 games a season that they were playing either in Germany or in Mexico. Boy, now they got several of them. So obviously a very concentrated effort by the NFL to expand the fan base, marketing base for the league. Pretty amazing stuff, because I can't even imagine. Probably should talk with somebody with the Panthers or the Giants or other teams that have done that, what it takes to get an NFL team to play, meaning just in terms of logistics. I'm not talking about just putting the team over there. I mean, the amount of personnel you got to fly overseas, the equipment. I mean, all of that stuff. You got to take it all with you. It's not like you could just put it on a plane here in the U.S. and hop it to another city. You literally got to take it to a stadium that probably is not football conducive. Actually, it's probably football conducive. But not American football conducive. Very interesting stuff. I think so. Big money, huge money. Golly, huge money when we're talking about all things in the NFL. And it's billions with the B. We're even moving beyond the millions. It's billions with the B when you're talking the NFL. Crazy stuff. All right, let's keep going here. Second quarter of today's show. We were talking about gold right before we went to the break there. And again, a very, very Amazing, not in a good way. Story coming out of the country of Colombia about gangs and cartels that have taken over a couple of gold mines, and gold, literally the commodity. Colombia, the country, very rich in gold, and meaning that they have a significant amount of confirmed ore in the ground, and so very, very attractive. It's actually a Chinese company that owns the mines that have been taken over by a couple of cartels. What really jumped out to me was the amount of gold that these gangs have stolen. And in the last year, the estimate is right around over 3 million tons. I mean, we're talking a lot here. I mean, do you put it on, what do? You put it on a truck? Do you put it, I mean, how do you get it out of there? Because you're up in a mountain. It's not like, you're standing next to the freeway and you're tossing it on an 18-wheeler. I mean, this is hard work. How the heck do you sell or steal 3 million tons, or 3 tons of, or 3 million tons of gold? Pretty unbelievable stuff. Along those same lines, got to bring this one out as well. We talk food a lot here on Dollars and Cents. That's because we like food. We do. We like to eat. We like hearing about food. We like talking about food. We like just about every kind of food that there is. That's kind of one of the qualifications if you're going to be connected here at WSIC. This one jumped across my screen as well. Amazing stuff. And not a publicly traded company, but just, again, in terms of the tonnage, this is what came across my screen. Neal's Yard Dairy. So it's a rather prolific cheese manufacturing business in England. They had 22 tons of cheddar cheese stolen. Let's just think about that for a minute. First of all, think about 22 tons of cheddar cheese. That is a tremendous amount of cheese. I mean, pretty amazing stuff of cheddar cheese. They had 22 I'm getting my numbers confused here. 22 tons of cheese, which was stolen from these. Well, how do you steal 22 tons of cheese? Well, I would agree. It sounds pretty crazy. Well, apparently there was a scam, a fraud postulated on them by someone who was posing as a wholesaler for a large French retailer, meaning someone who would wholesaler, intermediary, kind of broker style person who would then sell it to a retail outlet or a collection of retail outlets in France and sell the cheese. So the wholesaler then had the cheese delivered to his warehouse, her warehouse, their warehouse, don't really know. So they had they ordered the cheese, they had the cheese delivered, and I guess this happened over the course of months. And by the time they figured out that the wholesaler was fraudulent and that they weren't being paid for their 22 tons of cheese, that's how much had been delivered. So they stopped doing it. And amazing. So now, again, first of all, 22 tons of cheese, a lot of cheese. I can't even quantify that. I mean, is that a couple of 18-wheelers worth? I really don't know. But that sounds like a lot of cheese to me. Then I thought, if you're going to steal something, cheddar cheese? I mean, stealing cheddar, is there a secondary market for cheddar cheese? I'm asking this from a financial standpoint. Now, is there a secondary trading market for cheddar cheese that's out? That was new to me. I mean, you hear things like when you talk about what's happening in the country of Colombia with the stealing of gold. I get that, right? $2,500 a troy ounce right now, roughly, is the spot price on the London Exchange. I get that, right? It's not easy to mine gold. First of all, it's a very arduous process, but I understand that. I also understand the liquidity and the tradability of it. I don't really think about liquidity and tradability of cheddar cheese. Meaning, if you're going to steal something, is that what you would steal? And then again, in the secondary market of things, where are you going to sell that stuff? Is there a brokerage market out there for cheddar cheese? I found it interesting. I really felt bad for the cheese manufacturer, certainly because apparently that cheese was worth about almost $500,000 U.S. So definitely had them out on that. So not a good experience at all there. But again, when I was thinking about it, just from a practical standpoint, boy, if I'm going to scam something, not that I'm doing that, of course, if I'm going to scam something, cheddar cheese is not ringing to the top of my list of things to do. Kind of interesting. All right, let's keep going here. Things that are hot, things that are hitting your headlines. What's on your radar screens out there? Big one here, and this one. When I say a big one here, I'm bringing this because we've talked a lot about the rise in interest rates here over the last year, and I guess say 2 years now, actually, excuse me. So over the last 2 years, the significant rise in interest rates, and now the Federal Reserve here, the last couple of meetings, including last week, as you heard me mention here on Dollars and Cents, cut the overnight lending rate again by 25 basis points, 1/4%, largely expected that they were going to do that. And so now we're starting to have rates come down a little bit or pull back a little bit. But during that time, where we've had higher interest rates, things like automobile loans have become much more expensive, meaning higher interest rates are being charged. Not always, but certainly on the used car end of things, used truck end of things, those loans have become significantly more expensive. Meaning, if you're going to take out a loan for a used car, a used truck, those rates have gone up. They've come down a little bit, but not much. So I've seen 7, 8, 9, 10%, even higher for automobile loans, used car, used truck kinds of things that are sitting out there. And what we're starting to see a buildup across the country. So this isn't for one manufacturer, one model, or anything like that, but we're starting to see inventories increase. Very, very interesting. You heard me talk about a month or two ago here on Dollars and Cents about how we had hit a 20-year high in terms of automobile loans becoming delinquent, which means more than 90 days beyond the last payment that was made, meaning 3 months have been skipped, no payment made. So we hit a 20-year high there. So we got folks who have car loans who aren't paying them, meaning a block, not everybody, of course, but a significant block of folks who have car loans not paying them. And now we're starting to see more macro data that inventories have gone up, and as you would expect, when inventories get higher or increase, we're starting to see prices decrease because we're seeing higher inventories. Again, this is not every model, it's not every manufacturer. Definitely not saying that. So please don't run to your nearest car dealership and say, "Where's the used car lot?" looking for the deals. That may be there. I mean, that may be the case, but so I don't want to give the unnatural impression this is true for every manufacturer and every model. But when we're looking at it in a macro, we're looking at it countrywide here at North Main Financial, we're definitely seeing an uptick in inventories, and we're seeing pressure on pricing. And so that's going to be interesting because now we're going to have, we have had and we probably will continue to have some level of a pullback in interest rates. So do those prices continue to come down, or as auto loans become more manageable, maybe even more affordable because those interest rates are coming down a little bit, does that mean that it's going to spark more of an increase in buying because those rates are coming down? I don't know. I truly, and none of us do, of course, but even in terms of what I would expect, I'm really not sure at this point because from where I sit, the consumer doesn't have a whole lot of bandwidth to do that right now. And I say that not just looking at this particular variable, but I'm looking at things like how long people keep cars, and the people who keep cars, what are they buying? Meaning, are they keeping a single car for a longer period of time? Is it a used car? Is it a new car? Are they buying a new car? Then as soon as it's out of warranty, are they flipping it? All of those kinds of variables looking in there. I don't see the consumer, generally speaking, having a tremendous amount of bandwidth to be able to, even if the rates come down, to flip that car and go get a new one right now. So that's on my radar screen. And then I heard the news, read, of course, the news about Advanced Auto Parts. Here, Advanced Auto Parts, publicly traded company, Alpha Paul, AAP, not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold. They came out saying they're going to be closing 500 to 700 stores in the next year. That is a lot of stores, folks. Advanced Auto Parts, by the way, headquartered in Raleigh, North Carolina, so a little bit local here, a couple hours and a half away from where we're sitting here at the studio. But that 500 to 700 stores, that's huge. And they talk about just a pullback in terms of demand. And so when I see those kinds of things and I hear about inventories getting higher, and then I also look at pricing pressure, meaning prices starting to come down a little bit, what does that mean for where the consumer is? Is the consumer starting to slow down a little bit? Almost all of us need cars who are not in heavy, tight urban centers. So what does that mean? Are they holding on to cars longer? Are they going to be buying more? What does that mean for automobile manufacturers? I know, lots of questions. We're going to dive some more into them here over the coming weeks. But before that, we're going to take a break and hear from our sponsors. Hold with us into the second half here on WSIC.
Dollars and Cents with your host, certified financial planner Joshua Dobi, continues straight ahead on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Well, grab the rain gear and don't forget to dress warm as you step outside, really at any point today. On and off rain, some of it can be heavy. Temperatures will stay locked in those cold upper 40s around Lake Norman today. Rain will start to come to an end this evening. We start clearing it out as we go into the overnight hours. Temperatures fall back into the low 40s. For our Friday, it's a cool day of weather, low 60s. Some sunshine comes back, but it's breezy. Our weather returns to good shape over the weekend. That's your forecast for the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Hey, it's Kevin Harrison with Harrison's. Now's the time to load up on layers. From lightweight long-sleeve t-shirts to heavy-duty Sherpa-lined coats and everything in between, Harrison's has what you need to work safe and work warm all winter long. Come see us on Norman Station Boulevard in Mooresville.
Hi, this is Bob McIntosh with the McIntosh Law Firm in Davidson. Since 1997, we have been committed to providing our clients with competent, caring, and experienced legal services. Learn more at McIntoshLawFirm.com.
Welcome home to the feeling of Horn Heating and Air Conditioning is family owned and operated and understands the meaning of community. We treat you like family because you are family. Visit hornhvac.com.
This holiday season, start with jazz. Friday, November 29th, Joe Granston's Little Big Band kicks off the holidays with a lively big band holiday show. Feel the spirit of the season with festive classics that are sure to lift your holiday spirit. Get your tickets at canarts.org.
Prioritizing your health is one of the best ways to take care of yourself. From routine visits to the joys of pregnancy to the illnesses that stop you in your tracks, Iredell Health System will be by your side. Learn more at iredellhealth.org.
Hey folks, you know Randy Marion Ford Lincoln in Statesville is known for the prices and selection, but I tell you what, you may not have known the distinction that this store received with Ford and Lincoln this year. We received the President's Award for 2023 for Ford for the 5th year in a row. We also received it for Lincoln for the first year, and I tell you, those awards don't come easily. It all boils down to taking care of the customers and having the vehicles you want in stock for you to buy.
Hello, everyone. This is Joshua Dobi, president of North Main Financial Group. At North Main Financial Group, we move to where you need us: investment management, insurance planning, and estate strategies. No two people are the same, so we customize our planning based upon your needs. Reach out to us at northmainfinancial.com. That's northmainfinancial.com.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. McDonald's, Chipotle, Subway, Trader Joe's, and Yum Brands that owns KFC, Taco Bell, and Pizza Hut have made it onto this year's Toxic Hall of Shame. The annual report card from Toxic Free Future says they all failed to protect consumers from hazardous chemicals and plastics in the products they sell. Apple, Sephora, Target, and Walmart all received an A or A-. After a 6-week climb, Freddie Mac says the average interest rate on a 30-year fixed mortgage slipped this week to 6.78%. Freddie Mac's chief economist says rates have leveled off, but overall affordability continues to be an issue for potential buyers. Just months after purchasing Sovos Brands, Campbell Soup is selling the Noosa brand yogurt business that was part of the deal. Food Dive reports Lakeview Farms is the buyer. It specializes in fresh dips, desserts, and specialty products. Stocks are lower, down between 0.4% and 0.6%. I'm Nancy Lyons, Bloomberg Radio.
We're back now with more of Dollars and Cents with your host, certified financial planner Joshua Dobi on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Hello and welcome back to Dollars and Cents presented by North Main Financial. I'm your host, Joshua Dobi. Thank you so much for hanging with us here. Second half of today's show, Football Reference. You got 25 minutes, 40 seconds until you get to that 5 o'clock bell if you're a 9 to 5er, and I appreciate you sharing that time with us here. As we were going to break there, we were talking about a couple of different things, and but we had talked about the great cheddar theft that happened with a cheese manufacturer. It's not funny. I mean, it was $500,000 worth of cheese. But producer Reese highlighted for me, and this made me kind of quantify it a little bit, that that's 22 tons is 44,000 pounds of cheese. 44,000. That's got to be a tractor trailer or two, right? I mean, if you think about it, I mean, you're putting cheese on your Triscuit or on a wheat thin or something like that. I mean, 44,000 pounds of cheese. That's a lot of cheese. And I still want to know if there's a secondary market. I was thinking about it. Producer Reese and I were chatting during the break there that, yeah, we do have commodity trading markets, orange juice kinds of things, and wheat as well, and pork bellies. I know that sounds kind of funny, but we actually do, meaning we trade bacon, basically. That's out there. Now, do folks take physical possession of it? Not very often, but those kinds of things are traded out there. Maybe cheddar's out there. Cheddar cheese is out there. Maybe that's the value. But it's not like gold or art. It's not like you can hold on to it for 10 or 15 years and then move it at some very future date. I mean, there's a freshness date on that, right? I mean, you got to move it relatively quickly. Kind of interesting. Always interesting on that kind of stuff. All right, let's keep going here. I want to talk about a couple of deals that looks like it's going to move to fruition, meaning it's going to complete, and one that blew apart. Kind of interesting when we're talking about companies that are out there. First one I'm looking at is General Mills. General Mills, you may think of breakfast cereal, definitely big in the food end of things. The shelf-stable food end of things, the number of different labels under General Mills. Again, publicly traded company, Green Indian Sam, GIS, not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold General Mills. They're acquiring a group actually from a venture capital firm, so it's a private sort of acquisition. They're not buying another publicly traded company called Whitebridge Pet Brands. I got to say that a little bit slower, Whitebridge Pet Brands, $1.45 billion, so not a huge acquisition. But the real reason why I was looking at it is because of what Whitebridge is in it. And as you can see from the name there, Pet Brands. They have labels like Tiki Pets, Cloud Star, and it's just another move by another large conglomerate to increase their exposure to the pet business, PET business. Folks, it's amazing. The pet business from a financial standpoint is just, it's relentlessly good. I had it said to me once by a gentleman who was in the pet business. He's now retired from it, but he was on the pet food business end of things, and he described it for me this way. He said, when the economy's going well, he said the pet business is going well. He said, when the economy's going poorly, the pet business is going well. And his point was, no matter what the economy is doing, the pet business just does very, very well. We saw that during COVID. I mean, it was very, very challenging, I know, for certain folks who were wanting to find pets, meaning that there was this explosion of demand as COVID lockdowns took their shape to, if they didn't have a pet, to find one, and if they already had one, to find another one. And I know that there was a shortage, especially of purebred for cats and dogs, there for quite some time. Now we're struggling on the other end because a lot of folks who had pets during COVID then didn't want them anymore. So I know that some of our humane societies and animal shelters have really been feeling the strain of that. So really challenging stuff on that end of things in terms of folks as COVID restrictions were loosened, not wanting to have the pet anymore. So I know that's been a strain on the industry as well. But from a financial standpoint, pretty unbelievable. The pet business. So General Mills obviously acknowledging that, wanting to increase their exposure there and seeing some opportunity with this private acquisition. Now, this next one, I'm going to go into the world of fashion a little bit. And if you know anything about me, you know that outside of the financial impacts of fashion, I am not the kind of person with whom you want to have a conversation about fashion, meaning that I am very firmly of the conviction that most of the fashion trends from the 1980s are still applicable today. I have had many folks, including those who reside under the same roof as I do, explain to me that I might be a little bit behind the times. That probably is the case, and I don't care. So, but let's look at this one here. These are some very well-known names in the fashion world. You may not recognize the large parent companies, but you're going to recognize, I know, a couple of these names. A group called Tapestry, the ticker symbol Tom, Paul, Roger, TPR, not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold them, made an offer to buy a group called Capri. Capri, also publicly traded company, Charlie Paul Roger Indian, CPRI, not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold them. They made an offer to buy them, and they've been going back and forth in negotiation. But what also came about is because of the concentration that both of them have in the fashion world, and I'm going to give you the names you're going to recognize here in a minute, the Department of Justice stepped in from an antitrust standpoint. Now, what that means when the Department of Justice steps in with antitrust concerns is that there is a concern by the DOJ that if these companies get together, there's going to be a stifling of competition. There's going to be too much of a concentration within one house or one group, and so they will come in and they will actually break up the merger. They will sue and take it to court to break up the merger, and so that's what the DOJ was doing here. And the reason why, so Tapestry, some of the names, the labels you may know, Kate Spade and Coach. So Coach purses, Kate Spade, everything from silverware to also to clothing. Capri, some of the labels they have, Michael Kors, Versace, Jimmy Choo on the shoes end of things. So again, names you probably have at least heard about if you're not familiar with them. More than that, but what the Department of Justice came in and said is that no, there's going to be too much of a concentration within certain lines, and it will be stifling to competition. And so Tapestry announced they're not going to be buying Capri. They called off talks after all the negotiation, after all the back and forth for acquisition. They decided it wasn't going to be worth it, and that they would have to get shed too many lines and too many brands in order for the actual merger to work, and so they decided to walk away. So pretty expensive walk away for that kind of thing. So Tapestry no longer in the market to buy Capri. Does that mean they're going to be looking at somebody else for acquisition? Don't know yet. I think it's a little bit early. That news just came out here in the last 24 to 48 hours or so that they weren't going to be doing that. And so it's going to be interesting to see what comes next for those groups, because pretty powerful in the higher end of the fashion universe. And so, when you're thinking of those kinds of names, you think about things like Tiffany. You think about other kinds of Burberry, other kinds of high-end names for that. What does that mean about the consumer? I know we talk about them a lot here on Dollars and Cents. There's a reason why. Remember, the consumer, 2/3, 3/4 of our economy. So what the consumer does is what our economy does. And so we give a lot of concentration to that. We're obviously talking about discretionary kinds of things when we're talking about higher end sorts of fashion acquisitions. So it's going to be interesting to see what Tapestry does next. All right, let's shift up here. We've got to go back to one of our favorite subjects. We're talking finance. We talked a little bit of football. We also talked about the other F word. I could say that because it's food, right? All right, let's remind everybody that if you weren't aware, and I don't know if this has been said yet today here at WSIC, it is National Pickle Day. Now, I'll tell you that I'm not the kind of person who's looking at that calendar because I feel like every single day is a national fill-in-the-blank something day. But this one did catch my eye, and you'll understand why this one caught my eye. So I guess it's National Pickle Day as of the time of this live broadcast, or as of the time of this podcast, if you happen to listen to the recording. But most importantly, the reason why this caught my eye is that Burger King owned by Restaurant Brands International, RBI owns a whole collection, Popeyes, Tim Hortons, they own a number of different brands there in addition to Burger King. RBI is a publicly traded company, Roger Bravo India, not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold their stock. Burger King is coming out and in limited time and not in every location, so don't just run to Burger King and start banging on the door and asking for these because they may not have them at your particular location, but they are coming out with pickle fries. Now, when I saw that, so I love pickles, absolutely, and I love just about anything that's fried. You could probably put an old tire in a fry vat, and I still would at least have a crack at it. But they're doing pickle fries. So if you and their explanation was, if you like fried pickles, which absolutely I do, they said that's really the way to think about it. But they look like fries, so they've got the longer spears, I guess, or at least spear style of pickles, and they're frying them, and they're going to be offering them up at Burger King. Not every location, and only for a limited time. So again, your location near you may not have them. But when I saw that, when that came across my radar screen, I thought, that sounds good to me. I mean, pickle fries. Burger King, right? I told you here a couple of weeks ago, actually, it was more like a month ago, where they had a contest that they were going to give someone $1 million for coming up with the next variation of the Whopper. I know I told you that. I mean, and I think if it's not done, it's very nearly done at this point, where they offered up $1 million to have a little variation on the Whopper. So same hamburger and bun, but the toppings and all the kind of stuff. It's serious business, right? Hamburger, pickle fries. I mean, it's not the kind of stuff that we take lightly here at WSIC. So, all right, so we're going to take a break here as we get ready for the fourth quarter here on Dollars and Cents, presented by North Main Financial. I want you to hang with us. We're going to be talking markets as we come back from the break here. kind of interesting what we're seeing out there right now. Always is as we get closer to year end. Hang with us as we hear from our sponsors on WSIC.
More of Dollars and Cents with certified financial planner Joshua Dobi following these brief messages on 1059 100.7 WSIC.
Well, grab the rain gear and don't forget to dress warm as you step outside, really at any point today. On and off rain, some of it can be heavy. Temperatures will stay locked in those cold upper 40s around Lake Norman today. Rain will start to come to an end this evening. We start clearing it out as we go into the overnight hours. Temperatures fall back into the low 40s. For our Friday, it's a cool day of weather, low 60s. Some sunshine comes back, but it's breezy. Our weather returns to good shape over the weekend. That's your forecast for the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Cakes and cookies, toys and gifts.
The Southern Christmas Show, November 14th through 24th at the Park Expo and Conference Center. Save on tickets at southernChristmasShow.com, courtesy of Kraft Body Scan.
The Southern Christmas Show.
Here's your WSIC community calendar. Hot Rods and Hops is back on Friday night at Rev Fast in Mooresville. The cruise-in featuring souped-up cars, trucks, and motorcycles kicks off at 6 p.m. Your weekend begins at Apex Storage Condos in Mooresville Friday night with Hot Rods and Hops. Langtree Lake Norman lights their Christmas tree on Saturday. The annual event begins at 5 p.m. Festivities include visits with Santa, bounce houses, vendors, the Langtree Charter Academy Band, and more. Come out Saturday to Langtree Lake Norman off exit 31 from I-77 for their annual tree lighting. The WSIC squad is back for trivia at Micaiah's. Come join us on Tuesday, November 19th at Micaiah's in Mooresville for Big Bang Theory Trivia. Meet WSIC show hosts, play trivia based on the popular long-running sitcom, and win some prizes. Knock, knock, knock. Penny? We'll see you at Micaiah's in Mooresville on Tuesday, November 19th. Speedway Christmas at Charlotte Motor Speedway begins Friday, November 22nd. The Holiday Light Show features more than 5 million lights on a 4-mile course through the oval, pit road, and infield. The show also has drive-in movies on the gigantic Speedway TV. Speedway Christmas tickets and information are available at charlottemotorspeedway.com. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
The Renaissance Festival is back Saturdays and Sundays, now through November 24th. Tickets available online only at renfestinfo.com while supplies last. Don't miss the Renaissance Festival. Huzzah!
Making your money make sense. Dollars and Cents with CFP Joshua Dobi on 1059 100.7 WSIC.
Hello and welcome back to Dollars and Cents, presented by North Main Financial. I'm your host, Joshua Dobi. Thank you so much for hanging with us here. Fourth quarter of today's show. You made it. You're on. Well, you haven't made it yet. If you're a 9-to-5er, you got 11 minutes, 54 seconds until you get to that 5 o'clock hour. And I appreciate you hanging with us here as we're giving attention to all things economic and financial. And it's food and football in addition to finance. You're going to get that whenever we're talking here on Dollars and Cents. And we were talking about pickle fries. It's National Pickle Day, according to somebody. I'm always interested. When I see National Pickle Day, who says? I mean, I naturally think, well, then I'm going to make a national something day at some point. I don't think it's going to be picked up by Hallmark, though. I don't think that I'm going to have the same kind of market penetration that whoever declared that today is National Pickle Day obviously has. But I'll take it. I'll take pickle fries. And although I can't sell them to producer Reese, he says, no, not so much for me. But I certainly will take them. All right, let's talk markets. I promised you that we would. And before we get into the specifics on the markets, got to talk about the current, the incoming administration, and specifically the announcements that are being made, and they are just announcements about nominations. So I want to be real clear on some things, because here over the course of the last week, basically as soon as the lights dimmed on the election, the Oval Office, so President-elect Trump's staff, has continued to be announced. And we started with his chief of staff and then to several other folks. Folks, at this point, those folks aren't confirmed. Those are requests by the Oval Office for Senate hearing, and what they desire would be confirmation of cabinet-level positions. Meaning, for example, Representative Matt Gaetz from Florida, has been voiced by the Oval Office as one who will be raised for the position of Attorneys General. And the reason why I'm saying it that way, very specifically, is because he doesn't unilaterally become the Attorney General just because the Oval Office has said this. There is a very specific process. There is a nomination process from the Oval Office, and then there is a Senate confirmation process. It can happen. Now, usually these negotiations happen before the floor of the Senate, meaning before folks are actually on the floor, but not always. And meaning that the votes are known, generally speaking, before you hit the floor of the Senate for the confirmation hearing process, but not always. Or sometimes things can change. So I'm saying I'm saying that the Oval Office is, or the President-elect's office, excuse me, the President-elect's office is announcing these names, but there's still a process through which they're going to go here for all the cabinet level positions. For the secretaries, Marco Rubio, senator from Florida, has been raised as one who will be raised as one who will be asked for nomination for the position of Secretary of State. Again, confirmation process with Senate. So these aren't things that just happen unilaterally. There are appointment style positions, say for the president's chief of staff, but when we're talking about cabinet secretary level, that is a Senate confirmation process. I'm saying all of that, because just want to get into a little bit on the executive branch real quick of understanding, saying that these things don't just move unilaterally in these kinds of instances. But then two, when we're talking about what we're looking in the staff with the cabinet, and specifically when we're looking at things like Treasury Secretary, we're looking at then policy. Meaning what is going to be the desired intent, yes, at the cabinet level, but they can't unilaterally make laws, but the Treasury Secretary obviously is a very powerful position. So if there have been several names for Treasury Secretary at this point, don't know how that process is going to be yet or who it's going to be, but it's beginning to, we're starting to get, let's call them themes, which we usually get with every administration. Themes in terms of the folks that are being nominated, in terms of what they think is important, certainly what their biases are if they have been a previously elected official or held another kind of public position. You can identify what their decisions and their positions have been previously. Doesn't mean that's going to be exactly the case now, but it does give some indication about what's coming. So that's why I'm saying all of that, because then it begins to say, okay, this is what's important policy-wise. These are the kinds of priorities that they are going to have, especially as they approach Congress for certain kinds of things here in which I'm assuming pretty much after the inauguration. Meaning that the president-elect's office is all but said, we're going to hit the ground running with a whole list of things. Now, again, as you heard me talk about last week, just understand the process here. The Oval Office cannot dictate things by fiat. We are not that kind of country. There is limited power for the executive branch to do certain things in temporal kinds of ways, meaning that they can do short-term kinds of restrictions or loosenings of certain things for temporal amounts of time. But if you're talking about permanency, if you're talking about law, then it absolutely has to go through Congress. So that's why I'm saying that folks get sometimes real excited or real depressed and say, wait a minute, that's not how this works. And because Congress is going to be in a space, again, which has been the case now for quite some time, where the majorities are very, very thin. Meaning it's not, there are no super majorities in Congress. Yes, it looks like, I think I can say it at this point because the votes have been counted, that there are going to be Republican majorities in both the Senate and the House of Representatives. And so I hear Republicans say, well, yay, and I hear Democrats say, no, terrible. Folks on both sides, don't get too comfortable. These are very, very narrow majorities, very narrow. And I don't know about you, but it's hard to get a majority in my own household, let alone to get a majority in Senate or especially in the House on anything. So it only takes a handful of senators or of representatives in the House to not agree or tilt in a slightly different direction, and that majority goes away very, very quickly. So it's very, very important to keep in mind. So I tell folks constantly, don't get too excited from a market standpoint, because we had the markets go pretty much straight up the day after the election, and now they're starting to moderate, which we would expect. Even today, before I came on the radio here for Dollars and Cents, actually very quiet in the stock market, both in terms of volumes and price movements. Not with every single stock, of course, but sector by sector, very quiet today. And I think in part because the Federal Reserve Board Chair Jerome Powell was giving a speech that was, in my end of the world, listened to quite closely because we're pretty crazy about what he says, meaning we listen to every single syllable and try to get an understanding about what he thinks, and then by proxy, then what perhaps the Federal Reserve Board in its entirety thinks. Although there's definitely there is significant difference of opinion among the Board of Governors. I mean, it's not true that everybody thinks the same way. And meaning when there's a decision for a rate cut or a rate increase, there almost always are folks who are in disagreement. Not always, but almost always, where there are folks who are in disagreement. But the majority is what's most important when it comes to the Federal Reserve Board of Governors. So when we're looking at that, looking at the markets, looking at the cabinet nominees beginning to take shape, not again implemented yet, but cabinet nominees taking shape, looking at where the markets are. The Federal Reserve Board just cut rates last week. Again, they did it the day after the election, and so kind of got lost in the mix of things. It was hard to hear that over the aftermath of the election end of things, because folks were obviously hyper focused on that for all the understandable reasons. But they cut overnight lending rate again by 25 basis points. It looks like it is possible that they will do that again in December. So we could see another pullback in rates. And again, now remember, that has two prongs associated with it. I'm being overly simplistic here, but I want you to remember this when we're looking at what a cut in interest rates means. First of all, not binary to any other rate. It's the overnight lending rate between the Federal Reserve and its member banks. Member banks are generally all the banks that you see on your street corners, on main streets, and in the branches. Generally speaking, those folks that fall under the FDIC. Those banks borrow money from the Federal Reserve. They then take that money and look to lend it out. And so they borrow from the Federal Reserve at one rate. They put a little margin on it, or they put some spread on it, and then they offer those out as loans to the investing public. It's one of the ways that banks make money. So when the Federal Reserve drops rates to them, then they are able to theoretically drop rates to the consumer. But that doesn't happen all the time, and it certainly doesn't happen in a one-for-one ratio kind of way. So that's why I say to folks, you say when we hear that the Federal Reserve has dropped rates by 1/4 point, they say, well, then mortgages should be 1/4 point less. Nope, doesn't work that way. It's just the system doesn't run that way. Does that mean that rates may come down in certain instances with certain lenders in certain circumstances? Yes, that may happen, or not. And so that's why I just caution folks. Yes, we are in a rate reduction environment now. We've now had 2 cuts. It looks like we may have a third, maybe, here next month. So we're definitely in a rate reduction environment, but it's not falling precipitously, very intentionally. It's not happening quickly, and there's not a one-to-one correlation with mortgages, auto loans, lines of credit. None of that. There is not. If you have seen that, it's because that particular lender has decided to move in a one-to-one way. It's not true for the entire industry. So that's why I caution that. I want folks to understand what that means, and so they don't have unnatural expectations about what's going to happen in the market. So again, we're looking at the cabinet nominees beginning to come up that are going to be sent to the floor of the Senate for confirmation. We're seeing where the markets overall are right now. Post-election. And then, of course, we have the Federal Reserve and interest rates and the possibility of cutting rates here again. What does that mean for the rest of the year? I'm going to throw another variable in the mix in the algorithm of understanding the markets. Big one. You've heard me talk about it a lot here over the last couple of weeks, and we're into it, folks. Christmas season, ready or not. I mean, I feel bad for Thanksgiving. I like Thanksgiving, but man, we barely get through Halloween, and we are on the pedal for Christmas season. I'll tell you what. And so when we're looking at Christmas season, and I'm obviously joking about the kinds of things like decorations and Christmas trees that are already in our retail stores, but I'm looking at it for means of our discussion here about how the consumer is going to spend. And we just talked about Disney at the front end of the show today here on Dollars and Cents, coming out with what I thought was some better than expected. I'll say that for myself. Better than expected go forward kinds of forecasting in terms of how the consumer is going to be spending. Will that carry over into the Christmas retail season? That would be big. That would be big in a positive way about talking about where the consumer is. I have more modest expectations about where the consumer is, and I have more modest expectations about the markets overall. I think you know that in terms of because we've run ahead of the curve here so much over the last couple of years, and so we've run above average in terms of market return. That doesn't mean we're going to be negative necessarily next year, but we're due technically for a little bit of a breather as far as market performance is concerned. It's important to remember that. It's important to remember that for your portfolios. Important to remember that when you're looking at your overall plans. Well, friends, I appreciate so much you hanging with us here on Dollars and Cents, presented by North Main Financial. Make sure you tune in next week, Thursdays at 4, again, here on WSIC.
Serving you better than ever before. WSIC, Statesville, W290DK Mooresville, W264CU Statesville.
Are you concerned about losing your house if you go into a nursing home? Contact Crosswhite Law to learn about protecting your home. Crosswhite Law is here to protect you. Call 704-873-7233. CrosswhiteLaw.com.